Brawl Stars has a total of 75 hypercharges and a lot of them are broken. But there's 10 hypercharges that you should completely avoid, which I'll be covering in this video. And stay tuned for the last hypercharge because I'm not gonna lie, it is equivalent to an advanced star power, okay? Also, make sure to like and subscribe because just do it for El Primus, okay? The first hypercharge on this list that's completely useless is Kenji's hypercharge. Nah, I'm just joking. Kenji's insane. But it is actually Sprout's hypercharge. Now, I unfortunately bought this hypercharge back when it was released to test it out, and I think that this video says enough. Now, a lot of hypercharges in the game have a unique ability. For example, Mandy's hypercharge allows her to shoot 3 supers, but when you use Sprout's hypercharge, there is nothing unique about the super and mechanics, dude. Literally, all his super does with the hypercharge is damage enemies when they touch the vine things, and the damage isn't even that crazy, dude. Now, Sprout does get a speed buff and damage buff, which is a bit helpful, but when using a super with the hypercharge, it does absolutely nothing, dude. I mean, if you manage to hit an enemy with the vine, that's nice, but they can just run away from it and call it a day. Sprout isn't really in the meta right now, and in my opinion, he's a solid C tier, so I would avoid buying this hypercharge, okay? And yeah, if you've made it this far into the video, comment your favorite hypercharge. Alright, Jean's hypercharge is next on this list, and let me tell you something. This right here is a waste of 5,000 coins, okay? Now, unlike Sprout, Jean actually has a unique ability for his super with this hypercharge, but it is so bad, dude. His hypercharge pretty much allows the super to shoot out 3 arms instead of 1. Now, 1 arm goes in the middle like usual, while the other 2 sort of go diagonal. Now, this is a cool concept, but the problem is you're not gonna hit 3 people with this thing, dude. I don't even think that it's that easy to hit 2 people with this hypercharge. Now, when playing 3v3 game modes, players are moving at a very fast rate and they aren't standing still. So the chances of getting more than 2 people with this hypercharge is extremely low, okay? And that makes the performance of this hypercharge very questionable. And don't even get me started in solo showdown. This hypercharge is not gonna help, dude. And look, even if you somehow manage to pull more than 2 people with your super, how are you gonna 1v2 them, bro? The damage and speed increase is honestly great, but this 3-arm super thing, it just makes this hypercharge useless. The next hypercharge that's useless is Daryl's hypercharge. Now, I used to think that this hypercharge was solid, but I've come to terms that it's kind of useless. I mean, first of all, he only gets a 5% damage boost. What am I gonna do with that? Now, it is nice that he gets a 25% shield, so if I'm supering my enemies, I'll deal way less damage, which is pretty nice, but I won't be doing any crazy damage because I only have a 5% damage boost. Now, when Daryl uses his super with the hypercharge, he spits out bullets around him, which is very similar to the recoiling rotator gadget because they both deal 600 damage. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this isn't that powerful. First of all, why is the bullet damage from the hypercharge equivalent to the gadget? I mean, we're literally talking about a hypercharge, dude. This purple thing right here. These things are supposed to be broken, okay? If these bullets did at least 1,200 damage, then I would consider this hypercharge to be a bit less useless. Also, the chances of your enemies getting hit by these bullets are pretty low because like I mentioned before, 3v3 is very fast paced, so your enemies can easily dodge these bullets. With that being said, if Supercell wants to make this hypercharge better, the first thing that they need to do is increase Daryl's damage output from 5% to at least 15%. Because I'm not gonna lie, a 5% damage boost is not gonna do that much. I mean, I might as well run a marathon with this hypercharge because of the 25% speed boost. Alright, the next useless hypercharge is Nani Gaming's hypercharge Big P. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this hypercharge is such a boring hypercharge, dude. Now, if you're using Nani's hypercharge solely for the super, you're not gonna be able to attack your enemies with the hypercharge boost after you use your super because this thing takes so long to travel and find an enemy, and your hypercharge is gonna run out by then. Now, the main feature for Nani's hypercharge is the fact that Mr. Peep turns into Big Peep. Now, he does do a significant amount of damage if you manage to hit an enemy, but it's nothing crazy to be honest. If Supercell actually wanted to make this hypercharge broken, just give Big Peep some good old aimbot and let him travel himself. That way you'll also be able to attack and take advantage of these stats while Big Peep auto aims itself onto an enemy. But right now, if you're looking to buy a new hypercharge, I would avoid Nani's hypercharge because it is honestly so mid, dude. Big Peep is still a legend though. Another useless hypercharge is Charlie's hypercharge. I mean, there's just nothing to say. What is this, bro? With the hypercharge, her super pretty much traps an enemy into an egg thing and then spawns 3 spiders around it. And these spiders literally have no health and almost die instantly. And these spiders are also the exact same spiders from her gadget, by the way. Now, I actually tested out this hypercharge in Brawl Ball, and I have to admit, the speed boost and damage boost is pretty nice. But the spiders that spawn around the egg literally die in 2 seconds. I mean, what is the point of of them, bro. If Supercell wants to make this hypercharge less useless, they really have to buff the spiders in the hypercharge, dude. At least prevent them from losing health or maybe make them bigger like Mr. P's hypercharge thing. Because like I mentioned before, these spiders are the exact same spiders that are gadget spawn, so they're pretty useless, okay? The next useless hypercharge is a hypercharge that a lot of players have been complaining about, and I can understand why. And that is Pearl Gaming's hypercharge. Pearl's hypercharge pretty much leaves a burning circle thing for 4.5 seconds after using her super. Now the issue with this burning circle is that it only does 800 damage per second, and the circle is also pretty small. So if you were to use this hypercharge and unleash this burning circle, enemies can easily walk out of it and call it a day. Now I tested this hypercharge in Brawl Ball, and there's honestly so many issues with the super. First of all, if you hypercharge and super an enemy, they do get knocked back slightly. So if you're aiming to have the enemy land in the burning circle thing, they might actually get knocked back from the super and just chill in the corner. Now if Supercell really wanted to improve this hypercharge and make it better, literally increase the radius of this burning area thing and make it do more damage. Because 800 damage isn't that much, and because of the small radius, enemies can walk out of this useless burning area. Alright, the next hypercharge that I think is pretty useless is Bull's Jaws of Steel hypercharge. Now, after using this hypercharge, I have concluded that it is completely useless. I mean, you're telling me that the only thing that his hypercharge does for his super is reduce his damage taken by 80%? Bro, I'm not gonna lie, the 25% speed boost is a pretty good add-on, but what is that damage boost, bro? Now, I did use this hypercharge in Brawl Ball, and it honestly makes no difference because after you use your super, your enemies can just melt you and whack you out of existence. I mean, realistically, when you're dashing with this super, your enemies can easily dodge it. And once your super is done, they can just spam attack you and whack you out of existence. Because the 80% damage reduction is gone after the super. This is a hypercharge that Supercell definitely needs to rework or at least improve, because the only thing that it really does is reduce damage. I'm not gonna lie, this is equivalent to an advanced gadget, bro. But yeah, we're on to the final 3 hypercharges that are currently pretty useless. You don't want to miss the last one because it is probably one of the most disappointing hypercharges in the game. Alright, this isn't really surprising, but Shelly's hypercharge is the next useless hypercharge on this list. Her hypercharge pretty much makes her super 33% larger, and she only does 5% more damage. Wow, dude. I mean, you could have at least buffed the damage to 15%. Now, it all depends on how close you are to the enemy when using the hypercharge and super. If you're very close to an enemy, it will obviously do so much more damage, but realistically, you're not getting that close to the enemy. If you're mid-range from the enemy, you'll do a decent amount of damage, but it will be pretty weak against tanks. Now, if Supercell wanted to improve this hypercharge, they honestly should have made Shelly shoot 2 or 3 supers instantly with them doing the same damage. That would just make this hypercharge so much better, and it would do some insane work in 3v3 game modes. Now, this is a hypercharge that you were probably expecting to be on this list, and that is the legend himself, Brock Gaming's hypercharge. I actually bought this hypercharge when it first came out, and it was so bad to a point where Supercell had to buff it. And even after the buff, it sucks, dude. Like, is there a way to unequip this thing? But yeah, Brock's hypercharge pretty much shoots 4 waves of his super in the area you target, which may sound broken, but listen, the rockets do less damage, bro. Now look, if I hit this robot with my super without the hypercharge, the rockets are dealing 2080 damage, but if I actually use my hypercharge and hit the robot, it does 2000 damage, dude. So my rockets are pretty much doing 80 damage less with the hypercharge, dude. Now the hypercharge does allow your rockets to be in a more consistent pattern compared to the normal super, but honestly, you can still get away with using Brock without his hypercharge. That's how useless it is, dude. But yeah, we are on to the final hypercharge on this list that is completely useless, and that is Griff's hypercharge. Nah, I'm just kidding. It is my boy El Primus Gaming. I mean, this hypercharge had so much potential to possibly become one of the most broken hypercharges, but his super literally does nothing with the hypercharge. I mean, what does this even mean, dude? Now, when El Primus uses his super without his hypercharge, he does a solid 1920 damage, but when he uses a super with the hypercharge, it does 2016 damage. So almost 100 damage more. That is nothing, bro. He only gets a 5% damage boost with this hypercharge, so even if you throw in some attacks, you're basically using an El Primus without a hypercharge, dude. Without the hypercharge, I'm doing 760 damage per punch, and with the hypercharge, I'm doing 798 damage per punch. Honestly, Supercell could have done something cool with this hypercharge, like throwing some asteroids with the super, but instead they decided to opt in for some intergalactic elbow thing, bro. He does get a nice speed boost and shield boost with the hypercharge, but the damage boost is just terrible, man. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, click on this video to see how you can unlock Kaze fast in Brawl Stars.